and welcome to another video. This is the Bar Tub. Something slightly different this time, and certainly for the next 5 videos, including this one in terms of the format. I picked up 5 games for around the £2.50 mark off the fanatical.com website, so that works out of course at about 50p a game. So what I thought might be quite interesting is if I give those a quick review just to see if you can actually have fun on 50p. So do they have longevity? Are they really awful? Are they actually quite good? Are they just okay? We'll hopefully find out as we go through them. So we'll start with game number 1. So what have we got for you here then? This is Transport Inc. I'll just have a quick read through the Steam description for you. Become the manager of the largest transport corporation ever. Create new planes, bus, trains and truck connections. Optimize them to ever-changing demands and adapt to unexpected events. Beat the competition. Connect cities all around the real-world map. This is developed by a company called Digifox and published by Games Operators and Playway SA. Okay, so let's take a quick look at the game options. And there aren't too many here, as you can see. I mean, this is all really basic stuff, so just language, volume settings, and as you can see, some key bindings, all of which are customizable. So very little to say here, to be honest. There is actually a graphics and screen resolution setting at the start of the game just before you launch, so I'm playing on Ultra and on 1080p, but as you'll see through this, there isn't actually any graphics to be had, really. So as you'll see, there are 3 game modes. There are Story, Free Play, and Global Race. Free Play is probably relatively self-explanatory. You've just got an open world sandbox, basically. But these other 2, Story and Global Race, I'll hopefully cover as the video goes on. So let's start with story mode then. So story mode is pretty much as it's described as. There is a story involved behind the game, and what that is really basic. It's just about you as the main character and your father, who is a transport company owner, and you look to follow in his footsteps, and that's pretty much all there is to know. So it's a story of you trying to make him proud and starting your own transport business company up. And the game kind of works sequentially in the sense of if it was a real business journey. So you begin with pretty much nothing, so the basics. So the game eases you in. It's almost like every chapter or level is an ease into something different, a new feature of the game building you up. So you start off just being able to operate buses, and it works basically on a map of Europe, and you start in Germany. And you can't go outside of Germany at this point, but all you have to do is link up cities. So you can pick anywhere at random, and you just join them up with a road, and then add your buses to that, and they will just subsequently then start going between the 2. And there's just a box icon that represents the vehicle, so there's no actual graphics. You don't actually get to see them drive. It's just a card representation of them. So they go backwards and forwards, earning money as they reach either end of the destination. It's not just about putting buses down randomly though. You do have to put some thought into it. So you press on one of the cities that you want to start building from, or building a route from, and it'll tell you the demand for passengers in a neighbouring town or city. And off the back of the amount of demand, you have to then pick a suitable vehicle. So a larger vehicle would obviously accommodate more passengers. A more luxurious vehicle would accommodate the first class passenger requirement that you're seeing from the other places. So you've got a fair few vehicles to pick from there, which is quite cool. Again, they're just very basic little silhouette images of them, but it's fine. It represents different size vehicles, and you know exactly what they do and what they offer. Those vehicles can then be upgraded, so you can improve the comfort, you can provide better efficiency on fuel, so they don't have to be topped up so much. On top of that, you have to provide depots, and those depots will be where those vehicles will be repaired, and you can also assign managers to those so they can automatically be repaired, or you can take full control over deciding when a vehicle needs to be repaired. If they aren't repaired, they will break down and cause all sorts of problems, and therefore you're not making money on your route. Now this is where I started to see the game as actually a puzzle game. I did originally think this could be some sort of tycoon game, but I don't believe it is. I think it is a puzzle strategy game. So you're actually against a rival AI, so you've got AI companies trying to make it to the goals that you've been given. So in each chapter you're given a series of goals that you must achieve, and the AI are literally doing the same thing as you. If they beat you to those goals, you lose. You have to beat them. So the game is a puzzle. You have to work out the best combinations, best vehicles, best routes, best places to put your depots, whether or not it's a good idea to put your money into upgrading a depot to make them more efficient in repairing, or is it a good idea to put more money into investing in more vehicles? You've really got to fine tune it. And the amount of times that you'll find restarting this game because you fail and lose the AI, especially if you're playing in anything other than easy, so normal and onwards, you're going to find yourself having to learn from your mistakes, and for that it is pretty good. It's an easy game to understand, so you know exactly what you need to do, but it's hard to master. And I find it very, very addictive playing this. You lose and you just think, oh, you know what, I just want to have another go. I know what to do this time. And then you think you know what you're going to do. You try and implement that, and that doesn't work. So you have to come back and have another go. So this game for me has already got some replay value, which I think is actually really good. It's basic looking, as I say, but it grips you in that puzzle element because you know that if you've made a mistake, there has to be a way of doing it and achieving what you want, and you want to get to the bottom of that. Once you work out how to do all the buses, you move on to the next chapter. You get introduced to trucks. Same principle. So every time a new vehicle becomes available to you, a new type of vehicle, the same principle applies. You have to look at the demand between cities, attach the road network, and assign the same or relevant vehicle, appropriate vehicle to that demand. And those same decisions are again important in achieving your goals. So nothing changes between the types of vehicles in terms of what you have to do and how that works. So for me, I think that it's a bit disappointing that the same principle applies between a train and a bus, and a train and a truck. There's no difference between the two. You still need a depot, you still need to repair them, you still need to look at demand. There's obviously railroad tracks and roads being the obvious difference on the map, but there's no subtle differences between the nature of the transport in reality, which hasn't been incorporated. One thing I do quite like about this game is actually the user interface. I found that the map can become really hectic. So once you start introducing buses, trains, trucks, all of those things, once they're all started floating around, there's a lot of things going on the screen, lots of movements of images of vehicles, and you think, well, how the hell do you keep on top of that? There are features and areas of the system that you can click on to display all of your routes, and you can access those routes to edit things like your ticket prices, which, by the way, you need to adjust to meet demand. So if your buses or your trucks aren't being filled to capacity, you could adjust ticket prices to match or to get people interested in using them and therefore making the most of the routes. It's really easy to tweak those, so if you notice that there's like 2 people missing off the capacity of a bus, just bring the ticket price down by like $1 or $2, whatever the currency is in the game, and that's usually fixed, so then you just leave them be and it's pretty much sorted. So there isn't really any fluctuation. The only thing I would say on ticket prices, there are random events on the map, so sometimes cities will gain sports events, concerts, and you can temporarily put ticket prices up and things like that. So there is a little bit of variation there, but I actually think the game is quite easy to keep on top of, as I say, in terms of the user interface, because everything is a click away. If you drag a new vehicle onto a route, and that route is actually part of a bigger route, so it's kind of in the middle, so to speak, it doesn't trip over itself. It always allows you to pick the route you want. So I thought the game at that price, or at that value in terms of offer, it might not be very good and it might have been clunky, but it's actually pretty smooth. I haven't had any problems at all when it comes to finding my way around the system, and everything does fit in quite nicely and is very accessible. The game throws in some random events as well, so you might have roadworks appear randomly for a few days in the game, and that means your vehicles will move around a bit slower. Sometimes the roads are closed, so they have to go and find a diversion, which again will put time on the journey. So things like that aren't great, and you have to react to them, and you can move vehicles on and off routes fairly easily, as I say, with the good user interface, so you can move everything around to meet demand basically. So it's all there for you to do, and it does mix it up a bit. It throws some caveats in there, it throws curveballs in your direction. You've got to try and overcome those. I would actually like more scenarios, just different things happening, but for me, it can get so fast paced when you're looking after so many vehicles that perhaps maybe too many more random events wouldn't be great, because eventually as the game goes on, you've got to deal with banks, you could take out loans, you can manage your staff wages so they're happy, although that's just at a whole staffing level, so all of your bus drivers, all of your train drivers. So but these are extra things as the game moves on. As I say, each chapter brings an extra feature into the game. So you'll have an extra little thing, such as I say, access to banking, access to paying your staff, and of course access to the other vehicles, your railways later on and your aircraft later on. So each chapter that you get through, bear in mind you have to beat the chapter to get to the next chapter. You can be here a while, so this game definitely has a lot of time that you can spend on it. So you're not going to be finished within a few minutes, I can assure you. But I think you probably understand the idea of story mode now. It's just a structured win one, move on to the next one scenario with targets on each that you have to achieve and beat the AI, and it's quite hard. There are other game modes, as we've seen at the start of the video, so we'll ignore free play because that's really self-explanatory. But the other one is Global Race, and this one's quite interesting. So you can pick literally anywhere to start in the world, and I'm talking anywhere in the world, all continents. So pick a continent, pick a country, pick a city, and you start there. And the way that the global race works is you have to get to a certain target of what they call controlling the cities or controlling the towns. And to control a town or city, you have to move a certain amount of freight or passengers amount into each one of those places. And once you reach that amount, then you take control of the city. That becomes yours once you hit that target. And you have to repeat that however many times to capture however many cities that you need to as part of your target. Once you do that, you win. But the same principle applies in terms of the way the game works. You have to find out the demand of each place, assign aircraft, rail, or trucks or buses to them, and then off you go. They start moving, and everything I've said happens all over again. But this time you are trying to control a city by getting X amount of movements into that particular place. There are a couple of little things that I would probably like to improve about the game. One annoying thing, and I know you can turn this off or down, of course, but the music, I think there's 2 tracks, background music, and they are really bloody irritating. So after a while, that might give you a slight headache, and in the end, I just actually had to turn that off because it started getting on my tits. So yeah, that went down quite quickly for me. The other ones, I'd like a bit more detail personally. I mentioned earlier that you can appoint transport managers to handle when your vehicles come in for repair, that sort of thing. It's fairly faceless. You just assign a manager. You don't get to pick a certain person. So what I would like is to be able to choose somebody to put in charge of that. So people with different traits, so you can pick somebody who's good at certain things over somebody else rather than just anybody. And it's the same with the drivers. I'd like to be able to assign drivers, whereas drivers are all lumped together as one. So you raise the wage of all of your drivers. That's it. You can't pick individual people. There's no individual element. Everything is en masse, I would say, from that perspective. So I would like a little bit more detail from there. But that's what makes me think this isn't really a tycoon game. It's definitely a puzzle game, because it doesn't really matter who the individuals are. You're making a choice by switching manager off, by taking a loan out or not taking a loan out, and not get a choice of which bank you want to use, for example. And the reason why I think it's more focused on puzzle is because they are just parts of that puzzle. So they are pieces of that puzzle that you are choosing to utilize. And it's those choices that come together and hopefully allow you to complete that puzzle and win. But you make a mistake and do something in the wrong order, you can become bankrupt and just completely out of luck very, very quickly. And the game would be lost very, very quickly as well, should you make a wrong move or path choice. Overall, I would say I actually quite like this game. I like the fact that you've got the whole globe to play with ultimately in the game, and plenty of real life cities, so you can be very familiar with the areas that you're working in. And the individual chapters, so the story mode, does allow you to go into different countries and buy licenses for different countries for you to go from nation to nation, or with different pricing. So it's good and in that sense, and I enjoy that real geographical element. I think the gameplay is quite addictive and challenging, and I think the fact it is challenging is why it's addictive. So the two do very much go hand in hand there for me. Again, as I've said earlier, the user interface I really like. I think it flows very well, and you shouldn't find it too difficult to get to grips with the mechanics at all, and it's just a case of mastering them. And also, in terms of negativity, I would probably go down the route of the fact it's a bit faceless. There's no sort of individual control over anything. A lot of it's in bulk, and maybe there's not too much variety between the different vehicle types as well in terms of what you can do with them. It's all the same principle applies, and that could get a little bit tedious as you go along. The look of the game, it's not too bad. It's very basic as a map with just images of vehicles moving around. But because it's not really a tycoon game, it's a puzzle game. Would you want more than that? Yeah, I mean, it would be lovely to see little images of buses going down real roads, but for what it is, I don't think it's what it's for. So although it would be quite nice, it's not necessary. So I can live with that. But yeah, a good game, 50p's worth. I would probably say you're gonna get 4 or 5 hours of fun out of this before either you crack the algorithm behind it and know what to do every time to make money and do well, or you get bored and want to or you get frustrated and throw it out of a window, because it can be quite frustrating, or you just feel like you've got as far as you can do and you've had enough of it because it's become a bit samey and that's it. But for 50p, 4 or 5 hours, not too bad. Yeah, have a go. But I wouldn't necessarily pay pounds and pounds for it, but yeah, 50p, not bad at all. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you in the next one.